He's Nichols. Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath will be strong enough to survive that. Seaman Stroganoff isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyway, we have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be... Yes, an examination of the deceased body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Cosmo died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably, Darka didn't silently creep up behind Cosmo and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident. No. Because he wrote something. Or something was written. It's rather hard to believe of Cosmo-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. Well, we need to fix his deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened?
Yes!
What precisely was your intention with that, Mr. Naruhodo? Just following the natural progression of the deduction. Sometimes the truth hurts. Well, the truth is you do not have a term for observation or deduction. Did that hurt? Shit. That sucks.
Yes!
Right on. Yes, an examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asugi's lace leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asugi must have caught his foot at the point on the floor and tripped. Please, no. And by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some unmovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. No. I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asugi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. I don't believe it. Cosmo-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more. It can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happened. But, and if this part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a good look around. The answer must be here somewhere. This is where Miss Pavlova hid her friend. That's right, it wasn't a snake after all. No, it was that little kitten she calls Darka. Not that it's anywhere to be seen now. It seems to have let itself out of the case and gone exploring. I expect it's wrapped around someone's head somewhere, trying to make a new friend. Either that or it's scratching their hand to pieces. It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? If it looks familiar, perhaps it's mind tricks.
Yes!
That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in the waste paper basket. Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has familiar air, in fact. Precisely, we found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asagi's cabin. And as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no. So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why, would it be that part of the glass object, which is evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. In that hush Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. What? Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell.
Yes!
That would be the photograph. If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from Darka's collar, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Doctor. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. I'm disappointed that he died that way. It's like super unlucky. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night.
It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands.
People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments.
She was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it.
Yes. And I had read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me.
Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's precaution, really.
So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
So at that point, you thought it was safe to try and lure the kitten back again by tailing the end of the toy through the ventilator into the adjoining cabin.
Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return.
That's why you heard the faint whistling. So the faint whistling sound Cosmo wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then...
Wow.
I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent.
From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. SS Beria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. Mr. Osugi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet. The combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards?
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Yet Daka is nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she disappeared again.
Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am.
When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back.
Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it? And where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship?
Oh, I didn't say? Snake is my friend. His name is Purosko.
What? That snake belongs to you?
He escaped from a cage when the emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here.
But animals are not permitted on board.
We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friends, without someone who understands?
But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake, surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in.
No venom. Purosco does not have venom. He is harmless, very long but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny.
It's venomous?
Yes, now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile.
And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose?
Like they say they milk chickens. Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Piroska eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses.
So, is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for?
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. And it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role?
It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Purosco has nothing to do with this incident.
Miss Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize, but please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you.
But
What are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't put my finger on it. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. I'm only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The diseased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not? Yes. Cosmo was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, you must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. Well, we should ponder first. Is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That's what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten, that he climbed into his cabin via the ventilator, tragic yes, but still an accident. Yeah, but how was he able to write the stuff? Like a dying message if it was an instant blow like that. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show you our hand, let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence.
Yes!
The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Azuki could have left this message on the floor. That's script. That's script. It's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese in this case.
But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast.
That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Azuki could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death. Instant death. Which means after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Azuki's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true.
What?
So Suzuto-san has noticed it too then. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away.
I think it's this.
Yes!
Crap. Oh, is that right? This broken piece of glass next to the mark on the floor.
But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic?
Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw.
What?
Damn. If that's what really happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova?
Oh,
Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Oski died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or own guilt.
Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Oski's.
you are wasting time. Someone else was there? Duh, of course we know this.
What are you talking about?
Bulkhead was bolted, shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And
And the only other person in the cabin when young student died was you.
Yes!
it's true, I was in the cabin when it happened.
You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details.
But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message.
Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message. To be precise about the details.
Would you mind?
Forgive me, my dear fellow.
As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fell to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Oski really died.
But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was going to raise questions.
Yes, well,
It was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light on the floor there. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice the fragment of tiny item.
You all suspect me, don't you?
Seaman Stroganoff.
Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before she was dancer on the ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when the young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
This is all most interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You are a great detective. You should know. Look truth in the eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want me to tell that killer can walk through locked doors? Niet, it's impossible.
But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around the door latches so they can open and close them from the outside.
Threads? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap inside. No threads or needles or magnets could have been used.
No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so...
So Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from on the outside.
Not necessarily.
What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before.
I don't believe it.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside? One way does spring to mind, yes?
Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen.
Indeed we have, so would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over?
That must have been when the ship made its emergency stop before.
Yes, that's right, it's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over.
I believe. Yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the objects.
Or whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolts on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before and we had bolted to the door. But then...
If you need assistance.
Oh, that sounds like...
Inspector Hosonaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door.
Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed, or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that.
Oh, are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asugi was killed, Astasburia made another emergency stop?
When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hands across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over.
Oh, yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I?
Then we came into this cabin. We were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asuki's cabin.
Oh my!
Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova?
Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made emergency stop?
It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room.
Oh, it is simple enough. By forgetting the button in the passageway outside, used to trigger the emergency alarm.
Oh, yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency?
On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewmate to raise the alarm. A sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity.
Wait, it was you?
When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion.
How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You're in much trouble now.
No, I'm sure all this can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learned a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin door slide closed. So, what we must now consider... Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop or did it not?
You are idiots. Beria is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop in the even middle of the night, there'd be chaos everywhere.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea.
Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
The book and their heads hurting from an emergency stop when they were asleep.
Fascinating. Do show us, my good man.
Yes! Seaman Stroganoff, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right?
Duh, that is correct. Why?
In the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties.
What are you doing with it? That is mine.
You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift burrow in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with the mind to return it to you later.
I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always.
The point is, look at what you usually record. It's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase, "nothing to report," every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all.
Nothing recorded in the log?
That is... because nothing happened.
But if nothing happened, you would normally write, "nothing to report," wouldn't you?
Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happens, here aboard the SS Beria. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking rubbish.
If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself.
Why?
Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed.
That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anyone would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night.
Well, no, that's a good point.
What of the throbbing?
Sorry, what do you mean? Your head, man.
Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it.
Yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today.
Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected.
He's right, my head's been throbbing today too.
Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Well, Cosmo looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Cosmo wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right, he didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Let me think. He didn't eat chicken. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? What? I do. The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. What the fuck? Tampered with by the addition of soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it.
A sleeping drug?
Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course, is not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. Well, Seaman, I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself will be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade.
Please, no more. I will tell everything. I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore.
These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe.
Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel.
I don't believe it.
You're right, we put sleeping drug in chicken last night.
Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point.
We cannot make all drug. How do you say dissolve? It's midnight in waters near Shanghai. We brought our angel on board. She was helped by her comrades on shore with a small fishing boat.
While all the passengers of the SS Beria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, the only person awake on the ship last night were the crew people who disliked chicken and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova, and Kazuma. Oh yeah, you said that. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Cosmo's door.
But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos.
I wouldn't say so. Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. The overwhelming majority of passengers would have habitually sleep with their cabin bolted anyway, and so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolts of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning.
You have talked a long time and said many things. What is the point?
The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass or reveal the culprit's identity. Someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night.
But I don't know about any of this. I am just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes.
A laudable trait.
What?
I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo? Do you hear it? The accusatory cry of guilt on the wind?
What accusatory cry of guilt?
Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No, you must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction.
What are you talking about?
I believe the time has come. For one final logic and reasoning spectacular. To expose the truth. So, Miss Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. What exactly, Mr. Sholmes? With observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two prevaricators. Observation? If you remember, Mr. Naruhodo, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asaki's death. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there when it happened. Oh shit. So this guy broke his neck. Oh man. Precisely, you're delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Cosma died. Yeah.
Yes!
Seaman Stroganoff, those enormous arms of yours are thick with hair, and I have no doubt that in your struggle with the victim last night, handfuls of it would have come out. What the hell? No. I thought with only his strength, he could have... His arms were the murder weapon. Because it's cause of death, but I guess not. It's not that. Seaman Stroganoff, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there.
Yes, I don't know where the dirt comes from.
So nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain.
What are you trying to say?
It would appear that the significance of the stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain. It's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform. And I think what made it is clear. Indeed it is. So Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it.
Yes!
Yes, it's his photograph and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform.
Ink?
A rather unusual color of ink, purple. Ah, the penny drops at last. Now I see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of your uniform is ink of exactly the same color. If ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way. Which means you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilled.
Alright, yes. It was me, I did it, everything. I arranged everything in Dead Student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed the button to make Buria do emergency stop. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel. Don't worry, Angel, let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty patrolling Passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet. Biff, please, you must help me. I went with her. The door to cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw a student's boy on the floor. What happened here? Please, don't tell anyone. My little one, my little furry friend. Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped through the ventilator in Mr. Asugi's cabin. Then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell to the floor.
Oh yeah, I read that wrong.
Yes, that is right.
So after the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers?
Only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor.
She said she was worried when she heard sounds of something falling on the floor. That's when she went to look. No, Angel. The door was not locked. So she opened to look, and you already know what happened after. There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. What?
When you went to Mr. Asugi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead?
Why? I already told you. When Nina opened door of student's cabin and looked inside.
I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova?
Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared.
I understand, and I believe you.
Have we discovered the real truth? Something very nearly slipped my mind. Oh, Mr. Sholmes? This photograph. Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck, therefore the victim died instantly. And the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph that seems to be somewhat unnatural.
What do you mean unnatural?
What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? What the hell? I'm not even sure.
Yes!
Crap, I got it wrong. Crap. I think it's plain what Mr. Sholmes means by unnatural, isn't it? The word written in a foreign language underneath his fingertip, surely. Like the sort of fellow who stumbles with some regularity.
Yes!
Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then this fish just doesn't seem quite right. The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say, as though he were gripping something.
What do you mean?
Simply that